It was a crazy, make-believe world.
Terezin is a peculiar place. Situated in the north of the Czech Republic, in the picturesque area referred to as the Garden of Bohemia. Striking in its military grid street plan and the two spine-chilling fortresses. It's so unlike the surrounding medieval towns and villages of the region. Theresienstadt, by its German name, was founded in 1790 as a defense against the Austro-Prussians by Habsburg Emperor Joseph II, who named it after his mother, Empress Maria Theresa. The town consists of a garrison to the east and a large walled fortress town to the west, and was built surrounded by one of the most beautiful areas of the Czech lands at the confluence of the Elbe and Ocher rivers in northern Bohemia. In 1939, Germany invaded Czechoslovakia facing no military resistance. 2 years into the Nazi occupation, Reich Protector Reinhard Heydrich established the small fortress in Terezin as a Gestapo headquarters and prison camp for Czechoslovak dissidents and other criminals of the state. But it soon expanded to the larger western fortress, and subsequently the town itself becomes a Jewish ghetto which housed upwards of 150,000 people in deplorable and unsanitary conditions. Today, Terezin remains an enigma. The melancholic feel of the streets and lonely feeling one gets from standing in the town square is almost palpable. Even the underwhelming fountain and unkempt landscape exemplifies the town's appearance, which has changed little since 1944. From August to September 1944, Nazi propaganda began to generate films about the ghetto in order to show Theresienstadt was a thriving community and refute the rumors of the extermination of the Jews. They organized false sporting events, concerts, and theater, all in the effort to cover up real life inside the ghetto. This ruined building, former armory, stood as a stadium for a match of life and death between the Nazis and the Jews. And 4 to 6 weeks after this match, most of the people who appear in this film would be dead. Today, the small fortress stands as memory for the ones who perished in the ghetto. Over 35,000 people died there, both Jewish, brought from the whole of Central Europe, but also Czechoslovak freedom fighters who resisted the Nazis and were imprisoned in the fortress. As Germany began to unveil their plan for the final solution at the secret Wannsee Conference south of Berlin, the first Jewish deportees, mostly German, Czechoslovakian, and Austrian, were initially told that Theresienstadt was a haven for their prominent and elderly citizens. Many were former veterans who fought for Germany in World War I, some even decorated and loyal heroes. The Nazis, afraid to appear to persecute these former heroes and prominent individuals, created the illusion of Terezin as a retirement community, or spa town, where they could live out their days in relative comfort and peace. This turned out to be anything but peaceful and safe. It was a grand ruse, a charade of lies and false pretenses. In reality, Terezin became a holding area and a way station for the relocation of Central European Jews to their imminent deaths in the East, while appearing to the German people, especially the Jewish German people, that this relocation would be a safe haven and planned community made especially for them to live, work, and prosper. Nothing could have been further from the truth. Ironically, within 6 months after the establishment of Theresienstadt Ghetto, its founder, Reinhard Heydrich, was assassinated close to his residence in Prague by Czech resistance agents in the country's most iconic World War II operation, Anthropoid. This brave event was not to be left unpunished by the occupying Nazis, who in a brutal and horrific retaliation literally wiped off the face of the earth a peaceful farm village called Leditsa. On the very day of the massacre, 30 Jewish prisoners from the Terezin Ghetto were selected and transported to the annihilated village to dig a common mass grave for the men of Leditsa who were shot dead. They dug continuously for nearly 36 hours to bury the 173 victims. Astonishingly, the men didn't end up in the same mass grave. They were transported back to Terezin, but soon afterwards were deported to Auschwitz, where only 8 survived. One could only imagine those 30 men's thoughts on the ride back. They saw firsthand the absolute brutality that the Nazis were capable of, and they no doubt saw their own fate, their families, and the fate of Europe. To further their propagandistic misdirection and the illusion of Jewish self-autonomy, the Nazis created a Jewish council, or Judenrat, whereby any outside scrutiny from the Red Cross or emissaries of the Geneva Convention would see a self-directed Jewish community instead of a staged administration with virtually no authority, which in reality it was. This fiction hid a darker secret, the Judenrat's uncomfortable compliance with Nazi directive in the temporary housing and relocation of tens of thousands of their own people. Such was the case in 1944 with what the Nazis called the Great Beautification, when the Red Cross visited to inspect how German concentration camps were run, the behest of the Danish government to report on the condition of Danish ethnic Jewish prisoners. But what they saw was an uncrowded, well-dressed, and seemingly happy population. The truth was that in order to appear less crowded, the bunks were cut down from 3 to 2, and then sending 1/3 of the ghetto's inhabitants to Auschwitz-Birkenau with no hope for return. Their plundered clothes and personal items were recycled and put in fake stores that popped up. The streets were scrubbed with toothbrushes. A fake post office appeared with parcels created from the departed prisoners' possessions. Even fake bank books and ghetto money were printed to enhance the illusion of normalcy. Concerts were staged with some well-known Jewish musicians who were interred there to fool the visiting contingent as they moved through this fantasy world of perverted reality. One survivor exclaimed, "It was a crazy make-believe world." But it was enough to fool the visitors.
The most brutal thing was that they wanted to show a Terezin, where there were nice, healthy people. Each person was given a specific role to play. It was arranged beforehand down to the last detail. Who would sit where and what they would say. Those people who looked bad were not to appear at all.
Emboldened by these favorable reports, Heinrich Himmler scheduled even more inspections up until 1 month prior to the end of the war. The Terezin deception was even more successful than their military strategy. Soon, the world would see the horrors of Auschwitz, Birkenau, Dachau, and Treblinka. Yet Terezin would remain only a footnote to these Nazi atrocities. Even though 17,000 Jews, more than in any other camp, survived to the end of the war, Terezin would never truly recover. It became a victim of its own haunted past, with the future frozen in time, like a soul trapped in the purgatory of history. Its collective memory would fade from a fortress of lies to a city of ghosts.